Welcome back to You're Here for a Reason, Lawrence Ford and the Conscious Capital Foundation. I'm here with my dear friend, Dr. David Tusek, in round two.
Round two.
Nice to see you again. I'm so happy we're going to dinner tonight because I just have so much fun hanging out with you. We get to go so deep.
It's such a pleasure, Lawrence. Always, always a pleasure to connect heart to heart, soul to soul, and get to, we were just walking up the stairs, ran into a mutual friend, Greg, and we were talking about how this time of life is really resonant with the old poem that says, gather ye rosebuds while ye may, which is the poetic invitation to really, is actually written for teenage girls. And it's so relevant for us where time seems to be speeding up. Like every year seems to go by faster. And the intention was having a bad day, having a day where we allow ourselves to drop into negative energetic states, having a day where we operate out of the sympathetic nervous system of fight, flight, fear, freeze, and all of those emotions, as opposed to rebalancing ourselves in calm focus, rest and digest, is really the thing. Like, that's the thing. Because fundamentally, our quality of life is determined on our ability to do that well. And, it's the journey. I work on that every day. I struggle with that every day. But as an articulation, as a claim to say this really matters so much, maybe more than anything. And then as a physician, failure to do it drives all disease. Because another word for that is stress. And we know that stress drives all the things that we like to die of in our culture and our civilization.
Dave, what's so crazy is when you think back in the old days, maybe like 10 years ago, the psychosomatic, that the language that was used in the medical profession about connecting the psycho to, or spiritual to the physical was some kind of witchcraftery, almost.
Yeah.
That was pretty much ubiquitous 10 years ago.
Unorthodox to think about that, or to perceive our health from that frame. And, there's so much resonance to open that box up more widely so that the light can shine into it and illuminate what's real and true in your work. Every time we talk, it's like, oh my God, we're on the same team. Mm-hmm. The things that you're bringing to the world is really fundamentally connected to human thriving, flourishing, and well-being.
That's what I'm talking about. Hell, why not?
Right. What else are you going to do?
Why not? So if you haven't gotten it yet, this is a rock star physician. I want to ask you, why are you here on this earth? Start with the small questions.
Yeah, just get the little ones out of the way. It's actually very recent that I became aware of the answer. My journey in retrospect makes sense to me now in context of it.
Isn't always that way, right?
Yeah. But my life's calling, my soul's desire, and purpose is to help myself, my family, my friends, and ultimately all of our patients at Cloud Medical and all the other people that we have the opportunity to touch and to impact in a very humble way, like in profoundly humble language to help all of us articulate, understand, define what it means to be healthy and what it means to heal, and on what levels we tend to often need to heal as human beings, all of us. And that's really been the thing that I think about all the time. I am so inspired by, I'm captivated by, and what I try so hard and so diligently and so humbly to connect to and then to bring forth in our practice.
Well, let's not forget that last part, because it's one thing to do all those beautiful things, but to actually manifest that into the world in practice in a system that is not necessarily ready for that in many different ways, all the way into the insurance world, which drives so much of your profession today. But what you have done so far has been extraordinary. Why don't you explain, because I know you don't like to talk about yourself, but that's part of what we're going to do here. So what you've done in not concierge medicine, but what you've done. So full disclosure, I'm actually in Boulder in his office because David is not only a dear friend, but Dr. Tusek is also my physician. And I mean, my God, can you imagine? This is like the dream of being able to have a physician who is not only ridiculously skilled and qualified and brilliant, but also understands on the holistic path as well, and is acting on it. It's one thing to be that and then have a handful of clients or have a handful of just high-end clients, but you've been able to democratize and prove out the democratization of this to the degree you've been able to so far. And I know we'll get ready for your next stage because I want the audience to hear this as well.
Yeah.
But talk a little bit about your journey with Cloud Medical and what you provide.
Sure.
I really want everybody to hear this because I'm a recipient of it, and I think it's one of the greatest things I can do for myself in self-care is to be able to have a choice of a practice that is there and support me in my physical health, so I can be here as long as I can on this earth with just much vibrance and excitement, which is not an issue for me. I said to David, I was like, keep this in good place for me, will you? Because I'm just warming up.
Health span and lifespan.
There it is.
So the first thing is that is the raison d'etre. The reason of doing any of this is honestly to have people like you say what you just said. I'm so honored. Cool. I'm deeply receptive.
But I'm gonna hold on for a minute. I'm gonna do the New York thing on you. Okay. But that's for you non-New Yorkers. That's me being rude. But that's the essence of living your purpose, right? It's like when you're in that pure zone of your being and doing aligned, there is no difference in the energetic flow of what I receive and what you give, right? It's just, that's a perfect expression of that.
I believe that is true. It also is, it's when work and play become the same thing.
Yeah. It's like when I get on the plane, somebody goes, are you going to work or are you on vacation? And it's a really hard question to answer.
It's very simple. Would you be doing this as a hobby, even if you were getting paid for it? And it's absolutely not. Yeah. And to make a living out of it, again, talking about privilege. Yes, what a unbelievable.
And not without, because we're going to go there, because I know a little bit about your background.
Yeah.
But let's complete this thought now before I interrupt you about Cloud Medical.
Yeah, so it starts with, I always talk about the Bruce Lee move. How do you become a world-class performer in martial arts, in his case, or really anything for that matter, where you look what's out there and all the schools, martial arts schools, and you say, I'm going to take what's good, add what's missing, and discard the rest. I think those are such fundamental principles, right? So can we take some,
What's good?
add what's missing,
Add what's missing.
discard the rest?
Got it.
So there's some elements. Well, let's start with what's good. So as an MD, do I believe that we should feel very grateful for the miracles of modern medicine? 1000% yes. So we don't want to criticize that too much. The advances in
If I'm really sick, I don't want to be anywhere else.
unbelievable, right?
In the best hospitals in the United States.
Most places in the U.S., certainly in most major cities or even smaller cities like Boulder, you're 5 to 10 minutes away from a cath lab. That's extraordinary. And there's a time and place for those things. Of course, what's missing is we only operate from one side of the coin. We actually have no idea that there's two sides of the coin. It's like, oh, look, there's another side here. And the side that we operate from exclusively is called pathogenesis. So it's the origin of disease, disorder, and dysfunction, and then we apply therapeutics to those conditions, usually in the form of drugs or surgery. And that's kind of the thing, right? That's the shtick. What's missing is the other side of this whole coin, which is salutogenesis. Pathogenesis is disease, the origin of disease. Salutogenesis is the source and the origin of health and healing, and all of the methods to catalyze and nurture and support those things. And then what needs to be discarded is a whole host of things that we can point to. The first of which we started with, which is to say that there's certain parts of the healthcare system that are appropriate for the arcane bureaucratic processes of insurance reimbursements, and others that are absolutely not. What do I mean? If you have brain surgery for a brain tumor, it's probably appropriate to go through 26 separate steps, and that is a real number, from generating the claim saying, okay, I did brain surgery on you, and here are all the bills and all the people that need to get paid. 26 steps along the way through billing companies and many third parties and scrubbing and all these different entities, all of which take some part of that remuneration out of the equation. And then finally, what's left over lands in the, in the clinic of the physician that did the surgery.
I don't know how everyday people do that. I mean, I'm in finance, investing. Yeah, I've run businesses. I had multiple businesses today. That's hard work. It's unbelievable. It's really hard work.
And so
It's so much sympathy, especially for elderly people.
And so what we do is we've created this monstrosity, right? Which, again, to be kind, we could say, all right, for that bypass surgery or for that liver transplant or for something really, really catastrophic, it makes sense that there should be some semblance of checks and balances, if we want to call it that euphemistically. But where I draw the line and say, absolutely not, is in primary care. And what we've done is we've said, look, there's an alternative way to pay for primary care. Doesn't need to be dependent upon insurance whatsoever. Why? Because insurance is what you need for things that cost a lot of money. And those things I mentioned cost a lot of money.
Right.
Primary care, under our model, is the cost of a cup of coffee per day. That's what we charge for our memberships.
And by the way, they should be matching that payment to you because you're avoiding your lowering claims.
Which is the goal, right? We want to offset the need to treat acute illness, chronic disease, and chronic pain. Offset those three things. If we do that, that's called health span.
Right.
That's called well-being, thriving, and flourishing.
Yeah.
And so we have to tap into this whole understanding of what it means to be healthy and heal. And we offer that with full spectrum primary care, so pediatrics, gynecology, adult medicine, and urgent care for a cup of coffee per day equivalent, right? Which is what you pay. And if we go to Starbucks after we complete this chat, and we say, look, I'd like to order a cup of coffee and I want to use my Allstate card to pay for it, they say, what are you doing? That's how absurd it is. Like, you would never use insurance for something like that. And yet we think somehow that primary care, which depending on the stats that you use, comprises 50% or even 70% of all of the visits in the healthcare system, over half of them for sure are within the realm of primary care. What we're saying at Cloud Medical, and when we started this whole project in around 2010, there were a handful of what we now call direct primary care practices like ours. There are now nearly 2,000. I think the last number was around 1,800. So this is a proof of concept. This is not some experiment that, nobody knows if there's going to be viability in this model. It's like, no, we have a track record now. It works. And we're able to offer, very broad spectrum primary care for a very, very low amount of money. And the goal is to apply what we do such that our patients, our members, are actually lower utilizers of that catastrophic hospital-based.
Which is the end result. Those thrivability or health, and
Yeah. And so the mission really,
where everybody wants to get anyway.
it's where everybody wants to get. And the concept is quite fascinating. So we're calling it, the real term that we're using is health sovereignty. Health sovereignty, the concept is freedom from the forces that create dependency
On the system.
on the system in multiple ways, on multiple levels, right? So there are all these entities in our culture, in our industries, infrastructures, and institutions, not just in the healthcare system, but that's a primary one for sure, that create dependencies that limit our freedom. Freedom for what? Freedom to live. Freedom.
Can I give you an example? Sure. Let's give a real example here, okay? This is real life. So I knew I wanted to come out anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know where I'm going with this. I wanted to come out anyway. I wanted to spend some time with David. I also wanted to visit my doctor, David Doctor. And also we have an office out here in Boulder as well, and lots of friends now. It's like you always say, welcome home. I appreciate that. It's really nice to be back out here. And so I went to do labs for preventative care, which obviously is like a whole other language for traditional insurance. I mean, that's my interpretation. Why would you need to do any of this stuff kind of thing? So I go to a lab, which it takes a while to find a lab that would actually do it anyway, period, which of course is self-pay, which is fine if you have the means, again, against the system, right?
Yep.
So if you don't have the means, you're screwed. I think that's the technical term.
Yeah.
And if you have the means, at least you're conscious a little bit about the cost. So I go in there, I want numbers. They gave me a number, and they said, the lady was nice, she said, we're definitely the least expensive around. I flew to Boulder, to Denver, round trip, needed to make the trip anyway, came to your office, got my blood drawn this morning for the same cost.
Plane ticket included.
No, it's a talk about the system. There's a real live example.
Well, I mean, so what we were talking about is creating an alternative payment model to cover the costs of what we strive for, which is world-class primary care.
Right.
And now you're talking about, okay, but what about the ancillary things that I need above and beyond that, right? Labs
Right.
or imaging.
Thank you for free.
Or all these other tests.
Yeah.
And that's a wild west out there to this day. It's a wild west, right? So here in Boulder, these are real numbers. I can send you for an echocardiogram, and the bill for that echocardiogram will be somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. We can do that same test at cloud, which is where you want for your blood work,
Right.
for $200.
Did you hear that?
So it's a 10x or 20x or more. And we see this for everything, for lab tests, for all the imaging, x-rays, CAT scans,
I
MRI.
explained to you, and I know you're going there, but explain to people who are saying, what's going on here?
What's going on here is you have a healthcare system that has totally lost its way. It's based on pure profiteering. Most physicians, most of us doctors are captured in a mode where we can't be stewards of our patients' healthcare spend very easily. It's actually really hard to do that because the barriers to transparency are so great in terms of all of these costs. And it's very, very difficult to operate on behalf of the best interests of our patients in general when we're caught in that mainstream paradigm.
And you get beaten down after a while to be part of that machine.
Right, because the focus of their goals has nothing to do with what we're talking about. And by them, I mean the orthodox, conventional mainstream health system, the goals and the way it operates, has nothing to do with what we're talking about. What are we talking about? First, we're talking about a soul connection between two human beings that can look at one another eye to eye and say, brother, let's help you with this issue. And let's help you avoid further issues down the line. And let's look at you as a whole human rather than a toenail or a shoulder or whatever it is, body part. And let's first identify what we are even talking about on that level or in that context.
Now let's pause for 1 second. I want to give you the opposite side of that. This is not picking on the other machine. It is actually a deep love and care and sadness. I'll give you one example. I have a friend who's a cardiologist. He's got the biggest heart in the world. And I'm afraid of his heart. You know why? Because he loves and cares for people so much, but his practice beats the crap out of him for the insurance companies to get in and out of those meetings. And it's literally killing him because he cares so much. So there's one side. The other side is the guys who get beat down into the system. I remember somebody told me once, which is crazy, you got to have this, but they told me once, the way, how the doctors have their heads down typically, and then the clipboard, they barely make contact with you. Not because they're bad people, because they've been beat down by part of the machine, and they, and I was told once, and I'll let you go here, that the way you get the doctor's attention is by calling by their first name, so they still look at you. Is that crazy? But it's true. Someone else said that to me once.
And then again, I feel so much compassion because I was one of those guys that, again, the focus of this mainstream model is documentation. So the level of documentation that is required for making sure that you've run through all of the little check marks that you have to do, and the faster and the better our systems get technologically, and we're even implementing AI, well, they just add more and more and more to this whole idea of billing, coding, and documentation.
Because you can add more data, so they want more data.
So you have less and less time for the thing that we're privileging here as the goal, which is some sort of a human connection. You're allocating a good part of an already abbreviated visit, 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, to putting the data in rather than having a face-to-face conversation.
I'm smiling because the first time I saw you in this office, after about half an hour, I started feeling guilty. Because you were spending so much time with me. You cared so much. And then I said, okay, get that out of your head. This is a whole different deal here. Dr. David wants to be here with me. He does actually care.
Sure.
Yeah, but that's what was processing through my head when you were going deep with me.
And this goes down a continuum, and it ends at the most tragic thing you've ever heard, which is, or certainly a very tragic thing to acknowledge, which is currently in 2024 and 2025, the number one profession for suicide are physicians.
Yeah.
And if you're asked, like, what's going on here?
There it is.
It's, we've sold our soul. You know, most of my colleagues, and I really don't have any exceptions in my journey that I could name or identify. I mean, down to the last person that I know that went into medicine, that worked their asses off like you have to do just to get into med school, and then work your ass off as much as you have to do to get through it, and
work your ass off to pay all the bills.
Pay all the bills and residency and training, all those things. You know, we don't do that. There are easier professional career paths. We don't do that because we don't care. We do that because fundamentally we're called to be helpers, and we're called to be healers on a certain level. But what this mainstream, conventional, orthodox paradigm that we have now, that many people appropriately call the medical industrial complex, has ripped away all of the things that resonate with the frequency of health and healing and caring and love and connection. And when you strip that away, what you've done is you've allowed and sort of made it such that the healers have lost faith in the system. When the healers lose faith in the system, you know, we got a really, really big problem. And how do we know that? Well, depression is number one in suicide currently. So that's like,
When did that become number one?
it's been that way for the last several years. I mean, probably for at least 5 or 10 years. And so we've taken the time at Cloud to identify, you know, some of those things that are missing and some of those things that need to be discarded. I call it the 10 heartbreaks, the 10 ways in which the healthcare system in its current iteration broke my heart, literally, fundamentally broke my heart. What do I mean? Number one heartbreak. Healthcare bills are the top cause of bankruptcy in the US. Number two heartbreak. The healthcare system is the third leading cause of death in America. We failed the people. We failed. I mean, guys, we have to be so humble at our outcomes over the last 20, 30, 40 years. And when we look at all of the rates of disease progressing, and diabetes and obesity and, you know, autoimmunity and autism spectrum disorders, and I mean, on and on and on, to the point where 60% of Americans have a chronic illness, and something like 100 million Americans are pre-diabetic.
I mean, it's like a bunch of really caring people. The image I just got, which is a crazy image, but stick with me here. It's like you got this big, huge ship, and you've got leaks all through the ship, and you've got a bunch of caring people, physicians, running around with duct tape and plugs.
It's a bucket brigade. Yeah, and it truly is. And so...
And forgetting that it's the holes of the water that needs to be addressed, not the leaks.
Yes.
Coming up.
So we are on a mission to just be honest about all these things and to say, look, just because we are able to be intellectually precise as much as possible and intellectually honest as much as possible doesn't mean that we're not super proud of this great profession and to be a part of it. And there are so many of these holes to repair. The first hole to repair by far is primary care. Mm-hmm. Because if we can help people become more healthy, they will need less of those bypasses and less of those liver choices.
We'll do that breakdown. Today's world in this country is to untether to some degree from the insurance side, right?
Well, again,
Or is there another way?
no. I mean, I think that in primary care, that is the way.
Okay.
I call it the worst marriage in the history of humanity. Should have never happened. The bride of the groom should have parted ways at the altar. Insurance and primary care,
No bueno.
bad fit. It's ridiculous.
No good.
You know,
Doesn't make sense.
we talk about toasters and tornadoes. If a tornado rips the roof off of your house, you should call your State Farm person and your house homeowner's insurance person, right? Your representative. If your toaster breaks in your kitchen, you don't call State Farm and say, well, my toaster broke. What should I do? It broke. They're going to laugh at you. Why would we use insurance to repair the toasters, which is basically the price structure, the pricing model that we're talking about for primary care? We don't cost a lot. Yeah. We've been doing this for 15 years now for literally the cost of a cup of coffee per day, unlimited visits, no copays. You know, we offer broad spectrum primary care. And then we go beyond that to say, look, we are not just champions for your health, but we're champions for your pocketbook. So if you need that echocardiogram,
Yes.
come here, we'll do it for 200. Don't go there, it's $3,000. Or if you need the labs, come here, don't do it at, you know. So we want to be your navigators. We want to, as primary care physicians, really help people move through this full healthcare system. Part of our job, I think, very deeply, is to also know who the world-class performers are. So
you're a cost-efficient SureBuck.
that's a very, very good analogy. I mean, I for sure resonate with that. And people need guides. They need somebody to help them move,
Especially those moments.
And part of the reason too is we have all these Wizard of Oz screens set up, these smoke and mirrors that you can't see through that. We, at least as the physicians, have hope of getting the answer to, hey, how much is that going to cost? But most patients, it's like when they ask that question at an ER, at a hospital, at an imaging facility, they're told time and time again, well, we're not really sure. We'll have to calculate it. We'll send you the bill.
Yeah.
And then you get a bill and you're like, this is like 5 mortgage payments. Like what for a chest x-ray and some labs in an emergency room hospital,
Yeah.
$15,000 is not, you know, out of the norm for what people end up getting charged for. So all of this stuff can be completely avoided. We can keep those people out of those ERs to a very, very large degree. Again, we're grateful for the ERs when you really, really need them. But I was an ER doctor. And one of the inspirations for this model came to me. In fact, the whole inspiration to the model came to me when I was working in an emergency room.
Yeah, I was going to tell you to tell a story.
Yeah. And it came from this idea, like, wait a minute, how many of these people that I'm treating in this extremely expensive, fully loaded, decked out emergency room that's connected to the hospital could I treat in my little office with a nurse and a little bit of equipment? And I was like, gosh, at least half, maybe more.
Oh, to keep them out of there.
Oh, they were coming in for minor fractures, nosebleeds that wouldn't stop, migraine headaches that wouldn't break.
Oh, so you're not even talking about cardiac arrest that you could have prevented through
Cardiac arrest, go to the ER at all times.
No, but I mean, seeing that person 5 or 10 years before, you're not even factoring that.
They're not factoring that. I'm talking here, just talking
about
the run-of-the-mill mental people that showed up to see me in an emergency room. And I was like, these people don't need to be in an emergency room. They should be seeing their family doctor. Well, guess what? Her family doctor's booking out 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And they have something that can't wait 6 or 8 weeks, but it doesn't need an ER. It just needs access. So the first thing that we solve is the cost. Second thing we solve is the access, so that we have some same-day appointments at Cloud Medical for that cost. There's no extra charge to come in if you have an urgent matter. And again, it's all about bringing a little bit of common sense back into this. It's not so hard. It's not so complicated. But yeah, the story basically came to me in a dream. I woke up and began to type out what I thought was a more sensible, reasonable, rational, and also, heart-centered model for primary care as a family physician. And by the time I got, about halfway through my French press pot of coffee, I was like, I think, I don't know if this will work, but
Let's go.
I think it's got legs. Let's try it. So that was 2010, and launched my first company shortly thereafter. Ended up exiting from that in 2015, I believe. And then since then, we're constantly evolving and innovating within this space of direct primary care. And really what I'm most excited about, what's most new, is this idea that we need a framework for what it means to be healthy and what it needs to heal. We need very, very simple practices. So there has to be
So not everybody can get Dr. David Tusek.
right.
So you're talking about a framework that could actually help the listeners?
A framework that can help the listeners, look at something that takes very, very little time with very little effort and very little sophistication. Most people, and I include myself here because so much of this is my own personal story, but most people can stop getting sick with colds and flus and infections. I had the world's worst immune system, or I had a very, very weak immune system, I should say,
Well, you were in the ER just working hard.
as a child.
As a child.
I made it in the medical textbooks because I had a viral infection that almost took my eye. And they literally photographed me and put me in medical textbooks. And then throughout most of my life, I would get sick 8, 10, 12 times a year. I would catch every bug that went through the community. And I learned how to supercharge my immune system so that I literally don't get sick anymore from acute infections. I learned how to avoid and offset chronic disease. What do I mean by that? Well, most of our chronic diseases, cardiovascular disease, cancer, and neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's, are all driven and fueled by the same problem, the same process in the body, which is glucose dysfunction, metabolic derangements of our glycemic control. Right?
So you're saying it was this irrigation.
That's the root cause. That's the fuel on the fire of all of our diseases of our time.
Okay, so let me process that with the audience here. So everybody has some level of potentiality towards things with your DNA maybe, and
Sure. There's only two things, right? There's your genetic background, the inheritance of your genome from mom and dad,
right.
and your lifestyle.
That's it.
That's it. Those are the inputs.
And there's been a lot of consternation and theories that I've seen and believe have been totally turned upside down. Which one has the amount of power?
And really, at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. You can say, we can go down a rabbit hole on genomics, and we can say, hey, there's a wonderful way of capitalizing on scientific innovation, because at least now I know where the boogeyman's going to jump out of the bushes to hurt me in 5 or 10 years. That's really the value of genomic medicine. And of course, there are other therapeutic applications, but currently it's pretty hard to change your genome, but it's very useful to know what it is.
Yeah.
So if you or anybody identifies that they carry a mutation in their genome that increases their risk of whatever, colon cancer by 10x or 5x over the base population, that gives you some very, very useful information about how you might go forward in your screening program, in your early detection prevention screening program. But back to the point of, the kind of source cause of many of our chronic ailments, disordered glucose metabolism is the thing. And so, again, in my case, in my 30s, I discovered I was pre-diabetic. So that's what we're talking about here. Disordered glucose metabolism is prediabetes or diabetes or insulin resistance and all of those things that are related to that. I very, very easily, with a bit of knowledge that I didn't gain in medical school or residency, was able to completely reverse that without any drugs. I had chronic low back pain in my 20s. I was offered medications, muscle relaxers, pain relievers, surgery, and all kinds of things. I learned how to heal my low back pain so that I have zero pain ever in my back anymore. This was debilitating for me. I couldn't sleep, and that led to sleep disorders. And then I was always very, very challenged by this first topic that we brought up, which is called autonomic regulation or self-neuroregulation. I'm triggered, I'm pissed, I'm resentful, I'm angry, I'm ashamed, I'm fearful, whatever happens to be, it's a negative emotion, and I'm unable to release that and to regulate and to come back to center. And so those are the 5 pillars of health for immunity, avoid the chronic disease, avoid chronic pain, learning how to rest and sleep, refresh and rejuvenate ourselves, and then regulating our nervous system. And they map over the 5 pillars of health, which are hydration, nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress reduction. And so we say, if you're a dehydrated, poverty eating, sedentary, insomniac stress ball, right? Cheers. Nothing works well in our body. And so this whole idea of salutogenesis, which we're framing as an offering that's very, very simple to follow. Anybody could do it. Like I said, 8th grade level, takes very little time, no money, and really very little effort. You can change those 5 pillars such that, like me, you can stop getting sick. Like me, you can reverse the pre-diabetic condition, the insulin resistance that drives all the chronic illnesses. You can learn how to forego chronic pain. And all of this stuff is based on the sooner the better. If we wait till we're 80 and we've had these things going on for 50 years, that's tough, man. That's why we got to be talking to our young people. That's why we got to start with our kids.
So what can they do? What can they do to follow that, David? The people listening right now.
What they can do is...
So you're writing a book?
Well, there's a book, there's a webinar series, there's a podcast series.
How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, the easiest way is to email info@cloudmedical.io.
Okay, info@cloudmedical.io.
Yeah.
Okay. As you get directly in touch with your organization.
Exactly.
Fabulous.
Yeah. And so, we're aiming to scale our model. So
talk to you about it. What's next? That's rolling.
Yeah. So the very quick sequence is we're still in that mode, which you will appreciate is pretty fundamental and important, which is to optimize our operations. As we do that, we're now really bringing forward this whole framework of health, healing, salutogenesis, and basically a school of health.
So people out here would, even wherever they are around the country,
yes,
would be able to soon be able to access your brilliance and your everything you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, wow, it's not that much brilliance. Now, many of these things go back to ancient wisdom traditions.
That's where brilliance is typically.
And
well, that's true. You know this.
And then we combine, ancient wisdom traditions with modern science, and we bring it all together. We also combine the Eastern traditions with the Western tradition. So it's really whole human. It's not cultural procreation, but it's a global effort to bring together all of these different lineages and to then say, okay, from that context, how do we keep what's good, add what's missing, discard the rest? And
Keep what's good, add what's missing, discard the rest.
there's a lot of
That full circle.
stuff to trim. There's a lot of fat to trim.
Yeah.
Exhibit A is we don't need insurance in primary care. We never did, and we never will. And so that's really an important place to start.
We just need it, just for the listeners, obviously, for catastrophic coverage.
We need insurance for catastrophic, but there again, we're working with,
And that's hard too, but we're not going to unwind that now. But that's that whole.
we can
We?
we can talk about, I mean, not maybe go deep on it today, but my whole model was based on that I believed concierge medicine is relatively easy to do. It's relatively easy to do. We can give you a really great service, but you got to pay us a lot of money.
Right.
What's not easy to do, but it's also not impossible to do, is to say, pay us a cup of coffee per day, a very, very low spend,
Right.
and we'll give you a really, really high value. So this is effectively concierge medicine for the average man and woman and child in America. So it's a completely different ethos.
Yeah, but there's like 500 people right now that want to join your operation, David. So what's next?
Well, we have the rocket boosters that we're strapping on, and
Getting ready for this next phase that
really are.
really expand this.
red. And we want to be in, we want to be in many communities around the country. We're going to be doing an office in Denver next year. We hope to do, Phoenix, Scottsdale, and Santa Fe, Boise, and other locations. And Tampa, Florida. Tampa, Florida is on a hobbyist. And it's going to take an army of love, an army of physicians and other healthcare workers, of course.
Yeah, that decide that you're, as a leader, can bring these people to a place they already want to be.
People that say, look, I've had it. I've been there. I understood. I was the box checker and the hen pecker, but enough of it.
Yeah.
My soul is no longer willing to operate under the system, which not only is in many ways not working, but fundamentally it's serving the wrong God.
Yeah.
We're saying, no. We want to help you recognize the truth. What is the truth? You're already always whole, right? You're already always whole, brother. That's it. But there's things in the way of that awareness. There are things that are getting in the way, like annoying, simple things that we can do with your hydration, nutrition, exercise, sleep, and stress reduction that aren't rocket science. You do not need a PhD in psychology to learn how to regulate your nervous system. You do not need an MD in immunology to learn how to stop getting sick. I mean, and none of this stuff is foolproof. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here. I'm not saying that you will never get sick. I am saying I used to get sick 8 to 10 times a year. Now the last time I got sick was like 4 years ago. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we can cure everybody's diabetes. I'm saying, hey, I was pre-diabetic and now I'm the opposite.
So you said something to me that I wanted to get to before we wrap up here, which blew my mind, and I want you to unravel it a little bit. It had to do with the common cold and cancer.
Yeah.
Remember that statement?
Remind me the context.
So it was something like, I'm not going to say exactly what you said because I'm just going to reframe it the best I know. But it was something like, when we're truly doing preventative healthcare, most forms of cancer are as benign as the common cold. It was something like that. Now, that's not what you said, but
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is, for a lot of people, when cancer comes out of left field,
Yeah.
I know before I met you, before you were my physician, you're always wondering what's sneaking around the corner, right? And when, to your point earlier, what do you have propensity towards?
That's right.
Your genomics. And so the first thing I did with Dr. David was a full workup of everything.
Yeah.
And that gave me a baseline. Now, I'm adopted too, so that was extra special for me.
Yeah.
thank goodness it came out very, very well.
I know exactly. So I would put a slightly different emphasis on this. I think what's so incredible about this time that we live in is that it's actually not the therapeutics, the innovations in therapeutics that are the real game changers. And of course, we have therapeutic game changers. But where the real excitement for me is in the diagnostics. And nobody talks about it.
That's it.
Every time you go and you hear about what's going on in the healthcare,
Because it's not covered by insurance.
it's not covered by insurance and it's not such a moneymaker. Right? So if you're watching the Super Bowl, you're going to probably hear 10 or 20 ads about different drugs.
Yeah.
You're never going to hear an ad about, hey, oh my gosh, there's this new
Give an example. Give an example for us.
I mean, I will lay the land quickly, and I will say that I think we're in Star Trek mode. I think we've crossed the threshold in the last couple of years where we went from the old days to we now have all the tools that we've been dreaming of our entire career as physicians. I mean, I don't think that's an overstatement. I truly don't. And
I would imagine that's just warming up with AI, of course.
it's it's already including an AI, and so when we look at the number,
When I say that, because that's a big part of my world. Of course. AI still is at its infancy.
it's at its infancy, but we're already harnessing the power of it, right?
It's incredible already.
It's incredible. And so if we just look at the two main killers, heart attacks and cancer, the tools that we have for early detection
That's where I was going with you.
for both of these top killers, right,
Yeah.
are just absolutely unbelievable. So if we look at heart attack,
And as most people right now listening to us, I almost guarantee don't know this. They might know it conceptually a little bit, but very few people.
not common knowledge or well disseminated knowledge. So just know this. I mean, but I think this is a really important fact. The number one cause of death in America and in the Western world in general are heart attacks. Half of the people that die of heart attacks,
One half.
their first symptom that something's wrong with my heart is death. You just have to marinate with that for a second. I have no idea there's anything wrong until cable over, lights out, right? Fatal
50%.
Yeah, over half. It's actually over half.
Wow.
So what that means is we have all of these people, half of which will end up passing away tragically, suddenly, out of the blue, have no clue that they're ticking time bombs, have no clue that they're ticking time bombs ready to blow.
Yeah.
So our understanding of how heart attacks happen has really changed dramatically in the last few years.
There's any idea how many heart attacks I put you on the spot, but like per year or something? Or
It's somewhere between 400 and 500,000 per year.
wow. So you're saving 250,000 people a year if you go preventative.
If we go preventative, the reason that there's so much power in these new tools, and by the way, how do we know that the old tools don't work? Well, heart attacks have been the number one cause of death for a century, right? Since the advent of penicillin, literally. And so nuclear stress tests, coronary calcium scans, exercise stress echoes, none of these things have been as fruitful in identifying the really, really risky ticking time bomb initials as we would like. And now there is something. And you and I both have heard, I mean, in my career, I can't even cite the number of people that I know, tell stories about, oh my gosh, my dad, he just had a full nuclear stress test. He was given a clean bill of health.
And now
And 2 months later, he had the big one. So the point is, the old tools were great. That's all we had. But now we have tools that can actually identify the kind of plaque that causes heart attacks. Heart attacks are caused by plaque rupture, and not all types of plaque are as likely to rupture. So there's a very, very major distinction in hard plaque, soft plaque, and low density soft plaque. And we can now image with impeccable scrutiny the interior of those coronary arteries in ways that we could only dream about a few years ago.
Invasive?
Non-invasive. I mean, an IV, you get a little contrast.
Wow.
But again, the relative cost of the scan and the relative, potential adversity of a little dye and some radiation, some non-trivial amount of radiation, is so vastly offset by our power now to catch those ticking time bombs that I think we're just in a totally new generation. And similarly, with cancer, identifying those cancer genes and now adding the imaging and what we call liquid biopsy technology. So the 3 parts of this new stool. Don't not get a colonoscopy anymore. Don't not get a skin exam anymore. Do those things. Mammography still has a role, absolutely. But in addition, we have liquid biopsies looking for circulating tumor DNA. Not looking at your genes, but looking to see in your blood if you have basically fragments of cancer cells that are living in your body right now.
And that's not a blood draw.
It's a blood draw.
And I don't want to go too deep on the rabbit hole here, but I mean, how many types of cancer would that detect?
Well,
And in what stage? Or is it very
the place to say is early stages for liquid biopsies.
Yes.
We have a long way to go for this to be like the game-changing tool.
But
if you put it in with some of these other ones like full body MRI, it's amazing. But to answer your question, almost all tumors can be detected, but the detection at stage 1 is relatively low still. It's 20%. It's about 20%.
it's not terrible, huh?
So
Especially when you wrap it with the other.
when you wrap it with the others, and you can say, well, that's disappointing. It's going to miss 80% of stage 1.
But if you do it all together, right? So if you don't know that that's a risk for you and you're doing all the other, you had 20% plus.
Absolutely. I think it's, and over time, as you pointed out, it's just going to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to 30%, 40%, presumably.
Exponentially. I mean, AI is doubling. It's blown D.D. Moore's law for lunch. Over 3.4 months, double power.
Exactly. So I think we're already at a time when, again, these diagnostic tools are so much better than anything we had before. The price is coming down. They're continuously improving. They're getting better and better every year. And so, I mean, that's why people are talking about the escape velocity of lifespan, where we can give back a year of life faster than we accrue that year in terms of extended lifespan. We'll be able to, presumably, again, there's much work to be done, but the talk now is that the escape velocity is being exceeded by how many things we can do to extend life and prevent the boogeymen from jumping out of the bushes. All of these increasingly preventable things. Increasingly, we will continue to be able to prevent these fatal heart attacks, various cancers, and ultimately, there's a lot of work being done by people like Dale Bredesen in terms of early identification and then prevention, offsetting of neurodegenerative conditions. Also very exciting.
Yeah.
So this is such a cool time to be alive. I don't want to give anybody the impression that it's all perfect and that it's 100% or anything of the sort, but it is really good. And the earlier you begin, right? The earlier you begin, and as we know, if you read the news, every day you hear, oh my gosh, we're having cancer at younger and younger ages. People in their 30s and 40s are now developing things that never started before their 60s, not that long ago. So we have to be vigilant. We have to be aware. We have to begin to understand, well, why would that be? And that's a topic for another time. why would that be that we're seeing all these earlier cancers, right? But for the time being, I think it's important to know, man, do we have access now to phenomenal tools and technologies?
So here's what I want to end with. It just came to me while I was talking to you. As you know, I do, this can be a selfless plug for my book coming up, The World Doesn't Need You, around the age of AI and moving into the age of, I call it the wisdom age. And, part of that's going to be pushing us so hard in that area is the absolute transition and all-out loss of jobs.
Yeah.
So I believe, David, that you are in such a perfect place because from my view of a non-clinical medical person, but coming in from just a futuristic point of view from artificial intelligence and my studying in that field, is I believe your profession is going to get turned inside out as well. Everything from, the surgical robotics.
Oh, yeah.
Radiology, pathology, all those things are going.
Everything that is regimented and processed goes first.
Or computable, right?
Right.
Computational.
Exactly. So everything that you do would be able to scale because those things are all going to be leveraged at near zero cost.
Yeah. Totally.
And that entire profession is going to get turned upside down anyway, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And what we're going to be looking for is not the person who fills out charts or not the person who checks boxes or processes things to look at, because I'm going to have my biomedics and you're going to be able to know before I even come close to you real time what's happening inside of my system. It's going to be the person who sits with me and looks me in the eye and says, I care for you. You are a real human being. And it brings together all of your authenticity and knowledge and wisdom and love. And that is what I see, because as we get disrupted in this new age, it's about authenticity and purpose. And when you can be a leader like that in your profession, I think you are going to take over the world.
Here's, I think, what we all need to hear. I believe that we can only hurt to the degree of which we have the capacity to heal.
We can only hurt to the degree of which we have the capacity to heal. And then that's that for us.
We can only hurt inside ourselves. Oftentimes we do things that are hurtful to ourselves. And other times we do things that are hurtful to others around us. But I believe that the universe, the cosmos, is constructed in such a way that never rises beyond our capacity to heal. Inwardly as well as outwardly. And we're devoted. I mean, we're reverently devoted to mapping the pathways to do those two things.
Give a message, just whatever's on your mind, to the people who are going to be listening to this. What do you have to say?
I think that so many of us are consumed by the negativity around or us, depending on what channels you tune into, what is in the atmosphere and the ambient environment of what we allow to penetrate us. But this is a time when we're being called forward to see the light, to begin to transmit the light, to begin to reflect the light, the things that are good and true and beautiful. And I think that that's why we're here. We're actually here to reflect the light for one another, to say, brother, this is how beautiful you are. This is how I see you. This is how beautiful you are. And you're not even aware of how beautiful you are. And I'm here to remind you of that. It's a great service to also say, brother, and this is your shadow. I see that too. That's how so we can hold one another deeply accountable in integrity, but always out of love. Always out of love. So So my message is, I think the certainty of the goodness of the future, despite all the negative out there, is something that I'm very much committed to doing my very best to manifest and to perceive out there. And I thank you for listening. Thank you so much for having me on. And I look forward to continuing our journey together in all the different ways.
I am so grateful for you, my friend, and the world is so, so grateful to have you here. And fasten your seatbelt because you're going to get some emails.
Thank you, brother, and for all that you do as well.
Oh, yes, it's recording.